Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. This is one I've been wanting to make for a little while, and I kind of half made it a couple times, but I've been kind of struggling with exactly how to do it or what the best way was, so I ended up deciding just fuck it. We're just going to do another real easy car vlog, car Warhammer video, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so the topic of today is maybe not super exciting to everyone, but I thought maybe it could be helpful to some people who maybe want to give Warhammer content creation a try, or just kind of wonder what it's like, or like, is it worth it, what to expect, that kind of thing. So, why am I talking about this? Well, I think I'm kind of like uniquely suited to talk about it because I'm kind of right at the cusp of where I think, like, basically with Warhammer, especially like YouTube videos, I would say probably 99% of people that make videos about Warhammer, painting tutorials, lore stuff, whatever, they kind of, they cap at like a couple hundred or maybe 1,000 subscribers. Very, very few manage to get higher than that, and it's a literal handful that are able to make a career out of it. So at, getting close to maybe 2,000 subscribers, I'm kind of like right at the cut, like I'm kind of at the upper end of where I imagine I'm ever going to get, going at the way I'm going. So I think I'm kind of qualified to speak on what it's like to be a small or relatively small Warhammer YouTube creator. Um, and if by some miracle you give it a try and you shoot up there to become one of the big ones, hats off to you. I really hope you do, but I just temper your expectations is what I'm trying to get at. That it's so few people that manage to pull that off. I think the lore YouTubers probably have an easier time with it, but just in general, it's very, very few. Anyways, what can you expect? Well, don't expect a ton of money, but don't necessarily expect nothing either. So I, for example, as a few of you know, or as everybody knows, whatever, I have a Patreon. I don't have very many patrons. I'm extremely grateful for the ones I do. They've been with me for a very long time, and because of them, I make around $10 a month off of Patreon, which seems like nothing. It seems like very little, but if you think about it, over the year, that's about $120. Well, $120, depending on your currency, whatever, that is a big new model kit generally for Warhammer, or it's like a good amount of paints and supplies. And so by just kind of like just letting that save up, throughout the year, I'm able to make at least one more like big Warhammer purchase in the year because of those amazing patrons that I have. And for me, as somebody who mainly creates stuff like kit bashing and whatnot, buying those big models and stuff is not cheap. So if that can even just buy me one extra thing throughout the year, that's a huge help. Like, it's massively appreciated. So even if you, like, say you start making content, you get your first couple hundred subscribers or whatever, and you're able to, from one way or another, like, shift a couple of them over to Patreon to support you that way, that can be a huge help. And the reason you want to start that as soon as possible, or as soon as you're comfortable with it, and obviously, you can't guarantee anybody's ever going to subscribe to your Patreon, right? Like, that's an incredible ask of someone to not only like you enough to watch your stuff, but to like you enough to go out of their way to want to support you. Obviously you want to offer them some extra content or whatever for doing that, but that's a huge deal for anybody to want to do that. They're basically subscribing to you like you're a fucking Netflix or something, right? So the reason you want to do that as soon as possible is because YouTube does not pay very much at all. Now, it's not like it used to be. So it used to be with YouTube, you could get paid basically for any amount of views or any watches that you got. I know people were getting like checks for like less than $1. It's not like that anymore. They have a cap that you have, the threshold you have to reach. And once you reach that threshold, then you get paid. So for me in Canada, the threshold is $100. So every time my ad revenue gets up makes an extra $100, it takes a while for it to come, but then eventually I will get $100 from that. So now, where I'm at currently, I think throughout the year, maybe I get 3 to 4 of those payments throughout a year. So again, it's a couple $100. Might not seem like a lot, but again, that's a few more big Warhammer purchases, right? That now I don't have to make out of my own bank account. Now you could say, well, the hours and hours of effort and work you put into making the videos makes that seem like it's not worth it. And yeah, if you go like hourly, you're not getting paid a lot. Now that brings me nicely into my next point. You got to be doing it because you want to do it, whether you're making any money or not, because you're probably not. You're probably not going to make hardly anything or anything at all. And just be incredibly thankful for what you get, because it's going to be a labor of love. Don't expect to make a ton of money or anything. The reason I started the channel at all, I never thought I was going to get any subscribers at all. I literally started making the channel. If you go back and watch my old videos, they're all kit-bash showcases. I just made videos because it was an easier way to direct people to explanations on how I made some of the stuff I made. So I made those videos so I could just link them to people and say, here's how I made it, go just watch this 10-minute video. It's easier than me trying to type it all out in the comments and stuff, right? Because I had made a couple things, not that they'd gone like viral or anything, but especially like the Crew Townar and stuff. A lot of, hundreds and hundreds of comments, like asking, questions about it. Way easier to just make a video and send people there, right? So most of my videos, it's stuff I was making anyway. I'm making it because I want to make it, and then I just happen to film it and put it on there. And if people want to watch it, that's great. But if not, it's not a big deal. I was going to do it anyway. Now, I do make some videos like this, and I make the odd lore thing and whatever, but it's not work. It's all... I don't have too many friends and stuff that are still super into Warhammer, so I don't have a ton of people in my real life to talk to about all this stuff. So just making these videos where I'm just like talking to you guys about Warhammer, that's kind of my fix for like Warhammer conversation. So again, it's not work. I'm not making myself do this because I want to make money or get subscribers or anything like that. I'm just doing it because I like talking about it. And you guys are really the only people I have to talk about it right now with. So you got to do it because you want to do it. And don't expect to make a lot of money, but any little bit you get, think of it as just like a sweet little bonus, right? Now, that being said, what are some things you can do to try to stand out? So, it's almost impossible to predict. That I'm going to try to give some tips, but you cannot try and like please the algorithm. You cannot try and you can't try and make something, especially if you're someone that's like going to be kit bashing or painting or whatever. It is impossible to try to predict what people are going to like, what people are going to be interested in watching, because you will pour your heart and soul into something and you will think, oh, this is the best work I've ever done, I'm so proud of this, can't wait to share it, and it'll get 200 views. And then you'll make a random fucking video sitting in your bed bitching about the state of 10th edition, and that'll be your biggest video in the last 6 months with thousands of views and hundreds of comments. You can't predict it. You really, really can't. You'll make something that maybe you're not super proud of, and that'll be the one that people latch on to and love. So it's really, really hard to predict. Now, that said, some pointers, if you want to try to stand out, is obviously uniqueness, right? People want to see stuff they've never seen before. They've seen a million tutorials on how to paint a blood angel. They've seen a million tutorials on how to paint, orc skin. So unless you're doing something quite different, it's probably not going to be that standouty. It totally could. It just maybe is less likely. But if you make some weird, hectic thing that nobody's ever seen before, some crazy custom guard regiment of mutants or something that no one's ever seen, you might have a better shot. But you also might not. A prime example of trying to predict what people might like. My biggest video ever by far, to this day, is me showing off my, at the time, 2,000 points of kit bashed crew. Biggest video ever. well over, I think, 60,000 views, hundreds of comments. The Crew Towner, of course, like, was at the top page of Reddit, and, you know, everything else for a long time. And then I made a video a few months later showing off 3,000 points of Crew. Everybody loved 2,000 points. Wouldn't they rather watch more? No. To this day, the 2,000 point one still gets all the views, and the 3,000 point one, by comparison, got hardly any. So for whatever reason, that one, everybody watches, that one caught everybody's attention, but the video that has all the same stuff in it, except more, not so much. So that's just one example right there, where you would think logically, okay, this one did super well, here's even more of the same thing. Nope, people still to this day, that's one of my most watched videos. People are still watching that one, which is crazy. So you can't predict what people are going to like. You can try, it's probably not going to work. Now, what about dealing with what's the community like, right? Like, do you got to deal with a lot of negativity, a lot of bad comments, in my experience, no. Again, everything's going to be different. You can't predict anything. You can't predict what assholes are going to wake up in the morning and decide to mess with your day, right? But in general, I think the Warhammer community is full of a lot of good people, a lot of passionate people and as long as you're putting some of that out there, I think 99.9% of the time people are going to recognize that, and they're either going to say nothing, or it's going to be something positive, encouraging, whatever. Out of thousands of comments across all social medias and whatever, I can think of a small handful that were negative or mean or anything like that I've gotten. Out of thousands. Sorry I have to keep pausing the video. I am literally just getting over COVID. So I am freaking coughing my brains out every couple minutes. But, so don't go into it worrying about that. You shouldn't have any problems as far as I've seen. Obviously, if you go in, poking the bear with deliberately, controversial stuff, right? Like, if all you're doing is making videos on whether female space marines are good, or whether the Imperium is good or not, or things that people are going to get stirred up about, you're obviously going to get probably more nasty comments. But if you're just a person posting passionately about whatever it is that you're doing, I think you're going to be fine. So in general, what should you expect becoming a small Warhammer YouTuber? Well, not a lot of money, but maybe a little bit, and maybe a little more than you're expecting. One thing that I forgot to mention is it can open doors to other opportunities. There are loads and loads and loads of third-party businesses and companies that like to partner up with smaller creators. So if you're lucky, one of them might reach out and you might have the opportunity to work with them. So say you do some advertising for them in exchange for copies of all their latest 3D prints, whether it's models or bases or terrain or stuff like that. Obviously for me, I've been so fortunate to get to work with Lord of Skulls, who without them, things like getting to do a fucking World Eaters Warhound Titan would have never been possible. That's a huge opportunity that came because of this channel and because of being able to do some advertising for them. And that's really been fantastic. They've sent me so many cool stuff. I've got to have input on some of the stuff they've made, and it seems like their business is doing great. I hope it's because of some of you guys going and supporting them, using my discount code and whatever, because I really do think he's making some awesome stuff, and I've been so fortunate to get to work with him. So that is a huge opportunity that came because of these silly little videos that I make. And so even though it's not like he's not paying me direct dollars, and that's not like a direct monetary thing, it still has tremendous value that I've gotten because of these videos. So that's something to think about as well, that those opportunities can happen. But yeah, that's just kind of my thoughts in general about what can come from being a small Warhammer YouTuber. So if it's something you've ever been interested in, maybe give it a thought. Don't be scared about the negativity and whatever. Just be true to yourself. Don't try to chase the views. Don't try to chase the algorithm. I think if you're just making something cool and unique, I think people are going to naturally come to it, and just do what you can.